Good morning, Chloe. How are you?
I am great, Larry. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Can the audience hear me? If not, can you hear me now?
I hope they can hear you. Yes, we can hear you perfectly in the studio, Larry. It's so good to have. I want one of those microphones. What do I need to do to get one of those myself? They're really fancy.
Oh, goodness. I got enough mics to go around. I mean, we're having fun over here and we're getting results. Like you said, the sales landscape is changing. Or are we changing? That is the question.
That is the question. And Larry, I'll be in touch afterwards to work out how I can get one of those mics for myself. But I just wanted to ask, I know you've prepared a really great presentation for our audience and super excited to get started. Before we do that, there's one thing. We're talking about the sales landscape and how it's changing. Why is it so important now? Because hasn't it always been changing? What is it about 2021 that makes this so important?
Yeah, we haven't seen a pandemic, a global pandemic, at least not in my lifetime. So you ask what time it is, the time is right now to make sure we get ahead of it. As sales leaders, our people, they're looking for it, they need it, and they deserve it. And that's what we're going to be talking about.
Sounds good. Let me pass you the virtual reins, Larry, and over to you for your presentation. Looking forward to it.
Chloe, thank you so much. Let's get ready to rumble. Hey, what's going on, sales leaders? Happy to be here. As you can see, the sales landscape is changing. The question is, are you? So before we get started, I've got a question for you. Are you up for the challenge? Show of hands. Let me see. Are you up for the challenge? Okay, I like that. Y'all are an adventurous bunch. You don't even know what challenge it is, which I like. That's true leadership right there. You're up for any challenge that's presented. Here goes the challenge. It's the hashtag max out challenge and the hashtag Carpe Diem challenge. We're trying to max out our potential as leaders to really lead by example so that our team can then hashtag max out. We also want to make sure that we seize each and every day, and that's the hashtag Carpe Diem challenge. So if y'all are ready, let's roll. I love quotes. This comes from Mr. Rory Vaden. Not sure if you read the book, Take the Stairs, but his quote here is lovely. Success is never owned, it's rented, and the rent is due every day. Now, I got some questions for you. Did you pay your rent yesterday? I know that you were in day one of this great session. Did you pay your rent today? Are you going to pay your rent today to really lead by example and have your team step up to pay their rent? Now, this is my NASCAR slide. You can check the Carfax on LinkedIn. I've worked for big companies, mid-sized companies, small companies. I've even owned 2 of my own businesses, but we're not here for me. We're here for you. So let's go ahead and get started. Over the last 20 months, I don't have to tell you, you already know we've been through some chaos. We've been through some turbulence. We're going through the storm right now. Now, how do you manage when you're going through the storm? How do you lead when you're going through the storm? And I've got 3 things that I'm going to touch on that hopefully will allow you to step your game up. Number 1, let's roll. Innovation and change. Now, I need your help. There's a traditional saying that says, if it ain't broke, help me out. If it ain't broke, okay, I saw some of y'all mouthing it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. In my Steve Harvey Family Feud voice, survey says, nah. That's the traditional saying, but we're going to flip the script. If it ain't broke, break it, shake it, flip it upside down. And that's what we're doing. We've got to innovate. Now, what does the future look like? I don't know. I don't think anyone on this call knows. But what I do know is that we better be focused on CCT. Number 1, care for our employees. If we don't take care of those folks that we lead, we're in trouble. Houston, we've got a problem. Number 2, care for our clients. If we're not getting close and closer to our clients during this time, we're going to have a very tough time in the future. And then the T is talent. How do we make sure that we retain all of our superstars? We keep them happy, as well as how do we attract? I mean, if you think about it, in this global talent pool, there's so many all-stars that are out there that we can go ahead and capture. So I encourage you to, number 1, think about innovation and think about change. Now, we're all trying to get to the top. And I know I mentioned client centricity, making sure that we get tight to our clients. But my question is, what are you doing to make sure that you're getting close to your employees? How do you ensure? I know that we all have the talk track of, I care for my employees. But in the great philosopher, Mystical, who said, show me what you're working with, what are you doing to show that you actually care about your employees? How do you show them that you care, which is number two? How do we show our folks that we care? Now, I don't drink coffee. I've got enough energy to light up any room. But essentially, how are you making sure that your cup is filled so that you can then fill the cup of others? You got to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Now, we talked about care, self-care, and specifically, what are you doing to take care of your MBS, your mind, your body, and your soul, and then passing that along to your team so that they're doing the same. We're all going through this turbulence and this chaos together. What are we doing? What actions are we taking to make sure that our people know that we actually care about them, that our clients know that we care about them? Now, I asked you about the Max Out Challenge. I asked you about the Carpe Diem Challenge, and everyone said they were up for the challenge. You might be asking, hey, Larry, how do I show my people that I care? Well, I got another challenge for you, hashtag 3-minute challenge. Because a lot of times people say, and leaders say, I don't have the time. I don't know about that. If you don't have 3 minutes that you can budget, that you can schedule to surprise and delight your people, your employees, your colleagues, then something's wrong. All it takes is 3 minutes. Every day, every weekday, Monday through Friday, go into your Rolodex. That's not the watch. I know some of y'all are like, what in the heck is a Rolodex? It's essentially the contacts in your phone. And I need you to put your thinking cap on and think, how can I surprise and or delight them? If they're a NASCAR fan, you can go on to Google and find a funny GIF. If they love chocolate, you can find Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. The little things mean so much. And I want to encourage you, the little things are really the big things. What are you doing to make sure your people know that you care? Now, do you really know your team? That is the question. This journey line exercise really allows you to share who you are and the journey, the adventure, sometimes misadventure, if you're living my life, that you've been on ever since you've been born. It really allows you to strengthen and deepen those relationships. What are those top peaks? And what have been some of those lower valleys that you've been through in your life? What have you learned from them? And how do you use those lessons today? This is an excellent exercise for you to get to know your team, for your team to get to know each other, including yourself, just showing that vulnerability. This right here is your personal brand exercise. So when people think of Larry Long Jr., you can see it big right there. They think of energy, energetic, great energy, but also what are those opportunity areas for improvement? I see it right there at the top, too much talking. Can you imagine that? Who would say that I did too much talking? But now you allow your team to understand their brand. We've heard of 360-degree feedback. This is perfect. Now you can understand what are the top 2 things that you do well. And what is that one area of opportunity from each person? It's an excellent exercise to help you elevate your game and your team's game. The third exercise I have for you is based on priorities. When you look at these 8 buckets of priorities, how would you stack rank them? How would your team stack rank them? How can you serve your team if you don't really understand what motivates them, what inspires them? After you stack rank them, I encourage you to give yourself and have your team give themselves a grade. Scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, and no 7. 7 is that safe zone. I don't like the number 7, even though that was my baseball number at University of Maryland. Go Terps. No 7s. If you're a 6, what can we do to get you to an 8? I worked with a few CEOs in Chicago, and one CEO said, Larry, I'm a 2. When I rate myself in fun, I said, oh, where do they do that at? What can we do? He had been having some problems in the business. He carried that over at home. I said, what actions can we take to elevate that number 2 in fun and get you to a 5? Because anything less than 5 in fun is unacceptable. So those are 3 examples, actually 4 examples of things you can be doing to show your people that you care. Now, why are we doing this? Well, we're all taking the time here to increase sales, to increase our leadership. These are things, and I just encourage you. There's something to be said in terms of being open. In life, you get out of it what you put into it. If you're open to changing your behaviors, changing your habits, that's really where we see the astronomical growth. And if you don't change going forward, guess what? You might be extinct. So I'm a mind reader, some might be saying, what now, Larry? What do I do now? You threw all this at me. Well, I encourage you to go out there and, like Nike said, just do it. I think the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. Oh, no. We got to stop that madness. We've got to shake it up, break it up, flip it upside down, and start really, really changing. Because if we keep doing what we're doing, we're going to have a tough time in the future because the landscape is changing. Your people are changing. Industry, no matter what industry you're in, is changing. You've got to change as well. So I'm going to close out here. We're going to go back to basics. I dropped off my kids this morning in carpool, and we're just going to go to what I consider the ABCs. The A is action. What action are you actually taking? Are you holding yourself accountable? Do you have an accountability partner? I want to know who's leading the leader. I know that we've got nothing but leaders here. Who's your coach? Who's helping you step your game up? B is belief. Do you believe right here? Do you believe right here? And do you pass that along to your team? The C, and I'm going to quadruple click, is communication. Can you hear me now? My theme for 2021, even though I've got the mics, my theme is shh, listen. Are you asking the right questions of your team and actually listening to them? That's communication. Are you confident? In the words of my favorite comedian, Kevin Hart, he says, say it with your chest. Do you have the courage to make the tough choices, to make that change that we all know, but knowing isn't doing? And then back to the theme, care, self-care, care for others, hashtag 3-minute challenge. I'm going to give you a bonus. I know I said ABCs, but D, are you dreaming? Do you dream, and do you share those dreams with your team so that they can dream? They're looking to you for that inspiration. E is energy. When you come up in the room, when you come up in the Zoom, do you bring energy, or do you suck all the life and energy out? And if you haven't heard anything that I've said, this is the most important thing. F, are you having fun? I think the millennials, I work with a lot of millennials, they call it YOLO, hashtag YOLO. I had to look it up on the Urban Dictionary. What is YOLO? You only live once? I'm old. I don't know if you see that gray, but I'm getting older and wiser. My wife said, don't go telling those nice people you're getting wiser. You're getting older. But essentially, I'm living on a yo-yo, going up and down on a Tuesday. But you got to have fun through it all. So I want to say the time is right now. As Chloe asked, why is it important now? It's always important, but it's vitally important right now if we're serious about taking our game to that next level. If we're serious about hashtag max out and maximizing our potential, our team's potential, hashtag Carpe Diem, seizing each and every day. Did you pay your rent today? I know you can do it. Thank you so much for your time, your energy, your attention. I encourage you to go out there and make it happen. If I can ever be of assistance, please go ahead and holler at your boy. I'm Larry Long Jr. The mic is all yours. What questions do you have for me?
Thank you so much, Larry. They're going to find me a mic backstage, so next time I come on stage, I have something that can at least rival your fantabulous microphones there. Larry, that was brilliant. Some really great stuff that you've shared. Thank you so much. And again, full of energy. I've got a couple of questions. We do have some audience questions, so I'll let them up on stage soon. But before we get to that, I wanted to ask you, so obviously you call yourself a CEO. I love that, a Chief Energy Officer. Do you think organizations need to go as far as actually putting somebody in that role of Chief Energy Officer? Is that something we should be looking to do?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you, Chloe. It comes from up top, the leadership. Are you bringing the energy? Because folks are looking to you. Of course, you can bring me in as your CEO anytime, but if it's not coming from within, and if it's not authentic, people can smell BS from a mile away.
Sure.
Think about it. Do you want to work for a leader that's not inspired, that doesn't truly enjoy what we're doing, the problems that we're solving, the people that we're doing it with? I know I don't. Life is too short, YOLO. So I say, you don't have to bring in a chief energy officer from outside, but you do need to train your current staff, your current leaders, that they've got to bring it in. No one's going to bring the energy like me. I wouldn't wish that upon anyone. It's a blessing, and sometimes it's a curse. I got to calm down a little bit, but we've all got to be energized when we step up in the room, when we step up in the Zoom, when we wake up. We've got to be energized about what it is we do.
Absolutely. And to be honest, Larry, I think it's a blessing. I mean, it's a blessing for you to open up this summit with this level of energy for sure. We're starting right at the top. And so I wanted to talk about something else that's quite topical, because this month, you may or may not know, it's Women in Sales Month, which I think is super important. And just to highlight a little bit about what we're trying to do on our side, we've got 8 out of 12 speakers in our summit are female sales leaders, which I think is incredible. And do you think this reflects the way that the sales leaders are being viewed and the sea change in our environment at the moment?
The world is changing, and we've always known this, but now I love to see that we're taking more action. And I ask each and every one that can hear me right now, take a look in the mirror. Are you taking action to ensure there's a level playing field, to ensure that there's representation? Your prospects, your clients, your partners, they're looking for that. Your employees, they deserve it. Your business, the stats, and we're all in sales. We check the numbers, check the Carfax. The stats have shown that more diverse teams, more inclusive teams, more equitable teams deliver better results. So once again, saying isn't doing. For so many times, we talked a good game, but now we've got to walk a good game and ask ourselves, are we doing enough? And how do we get to that next level?
Absolutely. You said something earlier, which I really loved. I wrote down, you said, if it ain't broke, break it, shake it, flip it upside down. I love that. And I think that fits in really nicely with what you're saying there as well. We need to make sure we're doing more. Even if we feel like our system isn't broken, we need to make sure that we're disrupting as much as we can to really drive this message of diversity, inclusion, and equity, exactly as you've said, Larry. I wanted to touch on something else that I said this morning. So you might have heard in the intro, 17.6% of salespeople are happy in their role. That's over 80% of people in the sales world that aren't. 13% of our entire working community are in sales. What are we doing wrong? What can we do about harnessing this energy and this momentum and putting it into making our teams happier?
Yeah, so Chloe, I've been really fortunate to work with some top sales organizations, and it's really prioritizing our people. We talk a good game. Like I said before, there's a theme here where a lot of companies and organizations talk a good game, but when you look at what they're doing, they're not really investing in their people. They're not really showing their people that they care. And now that we've been taken out of the office, we're in a little bit of a hybrid. It's gotten more challenging. Well, we're all smart people. If you put your thinking cap on, you can really do some great damage to help your people know that they're loved. I mean, your people, all they want is a big virtual hug. They just want to know that you care about them as people and not just cogs in a wheel. They want to know that you actually care about them, what's important to them. And that's where the priorities list. Now you can understand, because not everyone has the same priorities. And working with sales leaders and top sales reps, everyone's got different priorities. But if you don't know that, how are you going to help your people succeed both in the office as well as outside the office holistically? So it really falls on us. That number, 17%. Oh, Houston, we've got a problem. But there's also an opportunity. I think they call this the great resignation. Well, guess what? This is an opportunity to make it the great retention by doing the things that everyone else can do, but they don't do, to show your people that you really care, keep them invested, keep them engaged, and rock and roll to success through the end of 2021 and into 2022.
Absolutely. I'm really glad you mentioned the Great Resignation there, and a bit of a shameless plug for a session we've got later, Larry, which that links in with perfectly because it's all about the Great Resignation. So let's see if later we come up with some ideas to turn it around, like you say, to be the Great Retention. One last quick question from me before we go to our audience, and this is, you mentioned that we're working in a hybrid environment. We need to do better to show appreciation and give purpose to our teams. But one thing that has been highlighted over the last 18 months is levels of productivity, and they seem to have gone up, which I think is great from what we've been through over the last year and a half. Do you think we will see a dip in productivity as we start to bring our teams back to the office?
Well, that's a great question right there. And if I was a fortune teller, I wouldn't be here, but we could. But if we get ahead of it, we should see increased productivity, because there are some folks that are they're just yearning to be back in person. They're yearning to be back in the office in a hybrid manner. There's not a ton of people that want to go back to the way it used to be. Yeah. There's some organizations that are pretty much laying the hammer down. You've got to come back. And it's like, no, we've seen productivity rise. Why will we do that? So I think it's really a delicate balance. And I think the key word there is hybrid. Flexibility, adaptation. How do I get to know my people and where they operate best? If they're producing and in sales, that's what we want, is production. How do I make sure I put my folks in the best position to have success? So that's a big question mark, Chloe. I wish I could say I knew the answer. I certainly hope that we don't see production decline. But if we go back to the way that things were before, we might have a problem.
Absolutely. Let's pencil in the diary, Larry. This time next year, let's have another chat and see what happened over 2022. It'll be certainly very interesting. And so, on that note, shall we bring our audience into the conversation?
Oh, well, gladly. I would love to hear what's